This is the Louie T Network.
Draft Zone. Draft Zone.
Welcome, you are in the
Draft
lab room. I am your host,
Zone.
Lou. Thank you for joining me here on this program, 2014 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series. Moving right along as we continue to break down the 2014 NFL Draft of every single team in the National Football League. We're using the Who's Next format, simply meaning be the first to leave a comment in the bottom of the comment section stating next and the team that you would like to see next. So be the first to say next and the team that you want to see next in the bottom at the comment section, and that team will be featured next on this program. And so we grade out these players using our baseball grading scale, single, double, triple, home run. There are no strikeouts in the draft wrap-up series, as we cannot tell how these players will pan out. However, we will get an aggregate score from all of the players' scores combined. We'll average it up, and we'll get a score for that team's draft as a whole. And then we'll move on to the next team up on the docket. So it's pretty simple, self-explanatory. Let's move on to the big board and break down the 2014 NFL Draft of the Baltimore Ravens, a team that struggled last year with that success of the Super Bowl, really seeing a mass exodus of their football team, losing a lot of key integral parts of their team from the Super Bowl championship just a mere season ago. And so with this Ravens football team, they're looking to bounce back, rebound, get back to the postseason, and try to get back to hoisting that Lombardi. And so it's going to take some good off seasons by the Ravens to get back to that point. And let's see how they were able to do in this 2014 NFL Draft. So I've got my handy dandy pointer. I've got my big board. That's all I need. Let's get to the board and break down this draft of the Baltimore Ravens. So you start in the first round. Ravens had 9 selections in this draft, and I'm a guy that, I'm not a Ravens fan. However, I know the slogan, and I tend to abide by it. In Ozzie we trust. And I'm not going to lie to you. I looked at this draft before I did any film study, and I said, man, this is an impressive haul by the Ravens. They've done it again. And then I watched the tape, and I'm here to tell you, I'm not that impressed. I'm really not that impressed. But again, in Ozzie, I trust. And so I'm not going to question these players or what they're going to bring to the table for this football team, because Ozzie saw something. These guys fit what you do, and he saw something to bring these guys in. And these guys are going to contribute. And so let's get to this draft breakdown. First round, 17th overall selection, linebacker out of Alabama, C.J. Mosley. I watched the tape on C.J. Mosley, and everybody is lauding and praising this guy for instincts and his ability to get to the football. And I'm just telling you, what I saw was a guy that was tentative, that he didn't just go right away. When he did, it was like he was shot out of a cannon. I mean, when he decides to go and he trusts his eyes, he diagnosed the play, and he gets in the backfield. I mean, the guy is almost unblockable. He gets in, he darts through holes, and he brings the ball carrier down. And I saw a couple of plays where I'm like, man, that's impressive. And I think that's what everybody is talking about when they see C.J. Mosley and his ability and what he brings to the table. But I just didn't see it enough. I saw a guy that dropped into coverage way too often. And that's not his fault. That's what the defense called for him to do. I saw a guy that when he was asked to blitz, and I don't know if this was part of him containing the quarterback or there were plenty of times where he was blitzing and he was between blitzing and dropping into coverage, and it's like he didn't know which one to do. Should I go? I probably won't get there. Maybe I should just stay back. If somebody leaks out of the backfield, I can cover them. I don't know what his deal was, but there were too many times where I'm just asking myself, what is he supposed to be doing on this play? I mean, it's understandable when you're playing Texas A&M for you to kind of have this mush rush where you're not really rushing. You're just kind of trying to contain Johnny Manziel and keep him in the pocket. I understand that. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, but what happens when you're playing a team with a quarterback that isn't as mobile, like a Zach Mettenberger? Why aren't you just going after him? I mean, what's the deal with you kind of rushing and not rushing? And like I said, he drops into coverage quite often. And so him blitzing doesn't have, and when he does blitz, he doesn't hit home that often, especially when you're talking about going after the quarterback. When he run blitzes, I think he's his most effective then. But I'm telling you, I wasn't that impressed with C.J. Mosley. I mean, look, I went into this process feeling like I was supposed to be wowed because he was just about everybody's #1 consensus linebacker for the most part on everybody's board. And, you know, I hear about the shoulder injury and all that, but that to me doesn't impact what I saw on the field. I mean, I just saw a guy that, and to me, everyone keeps telling me about his instincts and his ability to diagnose plays quickly and get into the backfield. And I just didn't see it. I mean, maybe I wasn't watching the right game tape. And I watched several just to make sure that I wasn't wrong. And I saw the same thing on every single game tape that I watched. And I'm pretty sure the guy is good. And I'm pretty sure, because it'd be one thing if one guy said this and another guy said something directly opposite and contrary to what the other person said. But everybody's saying the same thing about this guy, that he's really good, that he has instincts, that he finds the football. And having over 100 tackles, it seems like every year, being a tackle machine kind of lends itself to that credence. But I just don't see it, okay? And I'm not a guy that just goes along with the rest of the crowd because they tell me something and I allow them to feed me something and I just scarf it down. I need to see it with my own eyes. I need proof, and I'm just here to tell you I didn't see it with C.J. Mosley. Now, obviously the guy is good, but I didn't see anything special. That's the thing that kind of frustrated me. He reminds me of the rest of these Alabama linebackers. And when you get an Alabama linebacker, you get a guy that is highly productive in college. They get to the pros, and they're just average. Haven't you seen that trend in this league with Alabama linebackers? I mean, when's the last time one of these guys has just come into the league and they were a stud? I'll give you a chance to think, because you don't see it often. And so I wonder about this guy. I wonder about C.J. Mosley and how effective he's going to be at the National Football League level, because to me, these guys don't come in and shine. They come in and they're just another guy. And that's what I see out of C.J. Mosley. I just see another guy at the linebacker position. He's small at 230 pounds. He's only 6'2", so it's not like he's a big guy. He's not that fast, so it's not like he's a guy that's going to blatant. You hear sideline to sideline. I didn't see it. I mean, again, what do you want me to do when I don't see what everybody else is talking about? I don't see sideline to sideline. He's a guy that he can get there, but he needs you to hold the running back up. If that running back is fast, C.J. Mosley isn't going to cut him off. And so I don't see sideline to sideline. I do see coverage ability, but again, I think there are some deficiencies there. If you get a tight end with athleticism, with a little bit of size, I think he's going to give C.J. Mosley fits. But I see coverage ability. I do see that. I see the ability to knife into the backfield and make plays when he diagnoses it and goes much faster than slow. But I don't see anything special here. I just don't. I'm sorry. And for the first round pick, 17th overall linebacker out of Alabama, C.J. Mosley for me is, I'll give him a triple. I'll give him a triple off of production, off of the conference that he played in. But I'm telling you, I mean, he could have easily been a double in my eyes. I don't see what everybody else sees. But again, I trust Ozzie Newsome. And if Ozzie says this guy is good, if Mike Mayock says this guy is good, if everybody else says this guy is good, then the guy must be good. I just didn't see it. And so if this guy turns out to be a bum in 3 years and 4 years, it wouldn't surprise me. If he turns out to be another linebacker, just another guy, solid addition to this team, doesn't do anything special, he's not one of the better players in the National Football League, just a solid contributor on this team, would not surprise me because that's what I see out of C.J. Mosley. A solid contributor on a defense. He'll come in, he'll do his job, good work ethic, won't say much, he'll be a leader, but it'll be leading by example, not leading by vocal leadership. And so I can't fault him for just being who he is, which is a solid football player, but no dominating traits. And so that's just what I see out of C.J. Mosley. A solid football player that does everything well, nothing great. And so he's a triple for me in the first round. You look at the second round, 48th overall selection, nose tackle out of Florida State, Timmy Jernigan. Here's a guy that when he's on, he's a physical guy. He can have violent hands at times, can move around. Much like the rest of these big guys, when he gets tired, you've got to monitor his snaps. You have to. There were too many times when I was watching game footage of this guy, and he's just standing up. I mean, and he's not a big guy. You're talking about a 6-footer that's about 299, 300. Just call him 300 pounds, and he can move though. I mean, he's got great short area quickness, and so if he's able to disengage on the block, he'll get in the backfield and he'll wreak havoc. He'll come after the quarterback. He'll go after the ball carrier. He'll go down the line and make plays. But when he gets tired, he just stands up. He just stands up. And the thing that I noticed about him is that teams paid a lot of attention to him. He garnered a lot of attention at Florida State. And so teams were doubling down on him. And they were moving him out of the hole at times. Well, because of the attention that he garnered, it allowed other guys to step up and make plays. So you can't always base production and base a guy's importance off of him making a tackle. Especially when you're in the trenches, offensive and defensive line. They're the least glamorous positions in the National Football League because they don't get a lot of credit for what they do, but their play on the field impacts the game greatly. And Timmy Jernigan is a guy that you watch him and sometimes he's getting blown out of the play, but it allows other guys to come fill those gaps, fill that void, and make a tackle. And it's because they had to divulge 2 blockers to him to get him out of the way that allows 2 other guys to come right up the gap and make the tackle. His importance to this defense was one of the reasons why this was a team that won the national championship last year. That was so good on defense because a guy like Timmy Jernigan was in the middle of this defense. Now, he can make plays, but like I said, he's a smaller guy that can be handled by bigger, stronger offensive linemen. Guys with long limbs, because he has shorter arms, guys with long limbs can move him out of the way, can get him and redirect him. And so there's some things he's got to work on. And to me, he just needs to use his leverage because he's a shorter guy, has quickness, continue to fire off the football. Again, keeping him fresh will be important at the next level because he's a guy that when he's tired, he's useless, okay? Absolutely useless. He will just stand there. He will absolutely just stand there. And so if you keep him fresh, he's going to fight, he's going to scratch, he's going to claw, he's going to do everything in his power to try to get to the ball carrier, to try to get to the quarterback. Sometimes it's a futile effort. Other times he beats his man off the ball with quickness. I rarely see this guy win with sheer power. So I don't think that's a part of his game that is necessarily going to wow you. It's there, but I don't see him tap into that often. I usually see this guy win with tenacity, the will to want to get to the football, and quickness. And I think those are going to be the attributes that makes this guy special at the next level in the National Football League for this Baltimore Ravens team. And I think he'll fit perfectly next to a guy like Haloti Ngata on this defense. And you pair him up with a guy like that, you continue to build this defensive line. Because remember, when the Ravens were at their best, and I'm not talking about when you won the Super Bowl this past, season or two ago. I'm talking about when you were the Baltimore Ravens that continuously made it to the postseason, that was one of the best teams annually in the league. Your defense was the reason why. The defense was the catalyst. And the thing you knew going into each and every single week was that you can't run on the Ravens defense. It just wasn't happening. And over the last couple of years, you've gotten away from that. The defensive line isn't as stout. And so you're looking to try to build that back up and refortify this defensive line and this front seven and get it back to the way it used to be where, hey, if you're going to beat the Ravens, you're going to have to do it through the air because it's not happening on the ground. And a guy like Timmy Jernigan is going to help you do that. You pair him up with Haloti Ngata and some of these other guys you've got along this defensive line, and all of a sudden you're getting stouter along that defensive front, and then it'll be tougher for teams to run the football on you. All of a sudden, you're turning back into that Ravens defense that is so dominant against the run. And then you start shutting teams down on the ground. Things start to open up for you in terms of getting after the quarterback. And so these things go hand in hand. And this guy, Timmy Jernigan, to me, is a really good pickup here in the second round because he fits what you want to do defensively. And I think it gives you another big-bodied guy that is also athletic, like a Haloti Ngata, that can make plays along this defensive line. And so in the second round, 48th overall selection, nose tackle out of Florida State, Timmy Jernigan, for me, is a triple. I like the value here in the second round. Here was a guy that some thought was a first. I never thought he was a first-round pick. Some did. I did not. However, I think this is a solid pickup in the second round, a guy that's going to come in and help you immediately along this defensive line, probably going to start for you. And again, if you monitor his snaps and you keep him in a rotation and you keep him fresh, this guy's going to make plays for you along this defensive line. And that's what I expect the Ravens to do. Have him platooning in and out of the lineup, keeping him fresh, and allowing him to be the best defensive tackle that he can be in this league. You look at the third round, 79th overall selection, safety out of Florida State, Terrence Brooks. So back-to-back Florida State products. Right now, in this draft, you're going heavy on the defensive side, and you're also going with guys that went to prominent schools with great production. And so Terrence Brooks is a guy with a lot of speed. And you're going to pair him up in that back half with a guy you drafted last year. And you look at this team, and I just talked about fortifying the front seven. Well, now you're looking to also make sure that the back half is settled as well, because you've went out, you've got young guys in the secondary, and now you want to make sure that they have complements to each other. So you look at what you were able to do last season, getting a guy like Matt Elam in your secondary. He's looking for a tag team partner. You're looking to pair him up with another young safety and have these guys be kind of the enforcers in your secondary, guys that can make plays and settle things down in that back half. And Terrence Brooks is a guy that I think is much better away from the line of scrimmage. And so you'll let Matt Elam do the heavy lifting around the line of scrimmage. And I think that's where he's more comfortable anyhow. Now, I don't want to discount Matt Elam's ability to make plays on the football because I think he can do that as well. But I think he's more of a guy that you want kind of being meddlesome around the line of scrimmage, being an enforcer up toward the line of scrimmage, and allowing Terrence Brooks to be a guy that drops back. He can be that single high safety that can patrol the back half of the defense. Again, when you're running a 4.4 240, you've got speed to burn. He can get sideline to sideline, so he can definitely reach any route from the middle of the field. And so if he needs to get out to that left hash to try to break up that post, he can. If he needs to get to that sideline to try to help break up that 9 route, he can. He can do all of those things. He's just got to react faster. Sometimes I think he waits too long, especially in the run game. I mean, when you're playing 25 yards off the line of scrimmage and you're that far off the ball and you see run, I need you to come up, use that 4.42 speed to be explosive and get into the play. Get involved. Don't sit back there and wait. He literally plays the safety position as the safety. And sometimes he didn't have to do that. Now, again, when you're a safety, you're the last line of defense. You got to make sure that you're sound in your principles and don't allow guys to get behind you. But if it's a run and you see it and you diagnose it, I mean, with that kind of speed, I want you coming up, and I want you to be under control, because Terrence Brooks, watching him on film, he's out of control a lot. And you see that a lot with guys that are really fast in the secondary. They want to come up and they want to be aggressive, and they want to be aggressive very fast. And sometimes you got to come under control. And I saw the same thing out of one of his running mates in Florida State that was drafted by the St. Louis Rams, and Joyner. And Joyner does the same thing. He's so fast. He's a quick twitch athlete that he wants to come up and he wants to make a play right away. And LaMarcus Joyner usually is out of control. And I see the same thing in Terrence Brooks. He's OC. OC stands for out of control. He'll run up and you're like, man, if you could just come under control with that kind of speed, you'll do some damage. But there's times, and so with him, there's no in between. He's either taking too long or he's too fast and he's out of control. And so I'm like, if you could just find a happy medium for me. I mean, he's either at a 3 or he's at a 10. How about you just work at a 7 sometimes, or 6? That's perfectly fine by me, because you're so fast. If you come down and you're working at a 7, you're still running a 4.5 40, my man. You're still going to get into that play. You're still going to come. And I call it controlled aggression, controlled chaos. Come down in the box and help with controlled aggression. When you come to a play, I saw this guy miss so many tackles where he just flies by. I mean, he's like a blur, a blip on the screen. All you see is 31 flash, and the guy just stopped and he runs right by him. Or a guy will cut inside and he goes sliding by. And those are the guys that frustrate you the most, because you know they have the ability to get into play and help, but they just come out of control and they miss the tackle 85% of the time. And that's what Terrence Brooks does. But if he can come under control, he has the ability to make plays on the football. To me, he leaves some plays out on the field, because I watched one game tape and he's in perfect position. He reads the quarterback's eyes. He sees where he's going with the football, and he's in perfect position to pick it off, and he just dropped the football. I mean, and it's in the end zone too. I mean, you got an opportunity to take points off the scoreboard. You got to do it. And he failed to do so in that particular game, and that's frustrating. You know, anytime you read a play, you diagnose it, and the ball hits you in both hands, squarely in both hands, and you drop the football, no excuse for that. He'll drop that one, but then he'll go back and he'll make a diving interception, which to me is mind-boggling. But he's got all the tools you're looking for in a guy that's going. And let's go ahead and take the marker, take the cap off, and I'm going to go ahead and put an F behind this S, because he's a free safety. He's not a strong safety. And I say this all the time. In the league now, there's normally a blur, and it's almost like a bleeding between the strong and the free safety nowadays. You got to be able to do a little bit of both. In his case, I don't want him being my strong safety. I just want him being a free safety. I want you being a single high safety. I want you in the back of this defense. I want you making plays on the football. I want you to be nosy in the secondary, and let Matt Elam handle all the business up front. And if I need you to come up and make a tackle, come up and make a tackle. Come up under control and make a tackle. That's something he's got to work on. But with the size that he has, running a 4.4 240, he's got all the intangibles to be a heck of a player in the back half of this defense. And so in the 3rd round, 79th overall selection, safety out of Florida State, Terrence Brooks for me. He's another triple. I mean, I think the Ravens are getting solid players. They're not hitting any home runs. But when do the Ravens kill it? When do they knock it out of the park? This is what they do. They just get good football players, put them into their system where they fit, and they come out to be really good, solid football players. Again, when you see the Ravens, you don't see a cast of guys that are all pros, that are lighting it up, that everybody's buzzing about. They just get good football players that fit their scheme, and you put enough of those together, you get a Super Bowl winning football team. And that's what they're looking to do. So you move on to the 2nd of their 3rd round selections, 99th overall, tight end out of Colorado State, Crockett Gilmore. Another example of a guy that has no, and I mean no, superior traits. Nothing that he does stands out. He's a big receiver, or excuse me, tight end, a guy that can catch the football away from his body, but he's not going to wow you with any one thing that he does. So you know what I like to say here, and this fits him to a T. Okay, and so it's Pam Mon, proficient at many, master of none, and that's Crockett Gilmore to a T. Big guy, can move slightly, not going to outrun anybody, but again, doesn't need to, uses a subtle movement, so to speak, to create separation, to get open. He'll catch the football if you throw it to him. And every now and again, he has lapses in concentration that I don't get. You know, he'll run a route, he'll be wide open, and he won't see the football in. He'll drop it, and you'll go, what the hell, man? How'd you drop that? Then he'll run a route, he's being smothered by the defender, and the ball is up here. He'll climb the ladder, extend away from his frame, and bring the football down. You're like, so you drop an easy catch on 3rd and 4 that would have netted us a first down. Yet you go on the next possession and you catch a ball that is a tough grab in traffic, great coverage, guy draped all over you, and you go and snag that one. That I don't get. So I'd like to see more consistency from Crockett Gilmore, but he's a guy that I look at and I say, hey, he's got everything you're looking for in a number 2 tight end, which is what you're going to ask him to do. You're not asking him to come in and be the guy. You lose Ed Dixon in free agency. Okay, you're replacing with a guy like Crockett Gilmore, and that's exactly what you're going to do here. He's going to be your number 2 tight end. He's going to come in and be a complement in the passing game. He could stand to be a better blocker, and he'll learn how to be a little bit more proficient at blocking. But again, like I said, and this kind of lends credence to what I've mentioned already, Pam Mon, proficient at many, master of none. He's not great at anything. Not one thing he does is going to wow you. He's just really good at everything. And so he'll block, okay. He'll catch the ball, okay. He'll run routes, okay. Speed is okay. Nothing's great, but everything is good. And so in the 3rd round, 99th overall selection, tight end out of Colorado State, Crockett Gilmore is a solid double in the gap for this Ravens football team. Like I said, he's going to come in, fill the void left by Ed Dixon in his passing game. He'll come in, he'll catch some balls, he'll block in the run game. He'll do everything you ask him to do. He won't be a guy that wows you with anything that he does. He won't be a guy that stands out from the crowd. He'll just do his job, and he'll do it well. He won't be great. He'll just do it well. So you move on to the 4th round, 134th selection overall, defensive tackle out of Virginia, Brent Urban. And this is a guy that I like a lot. You watch him on tape, nothing flashy here. Absolutely nothing flashy about this man's game. He's going to do his job, and he's not going to get a lot of pressure on the quarterback. He's not going to make a lot of flashy splash plays in the run game. But what he will do is, and this is the quintessential 5 technique in the National Football League. He played defensive tackle at UVA. You're going to kick him outside the defensive end, and you're going to ask him to do one thing and one thing alone. And that's be stout at the point of attack in the run game. And that's exactly what Brent Urban's going to do. He's not going to be moved off of his spot. He's going to stand there. If that tackle thinks he's going to move this guy, he's wrong. He's going to set the edge in the run game. He's going to be there. He's going to be a rock. And he's got somewhat of a paw doom. I mean, if a guy comes by and he can't disengage, he'll stick his arm out there and he'll slide down the pole and he'll wrap up that leg, and that guy's not getting away. And so I like what Brent Urban brings to the table, because you're not going to ask this guy to get pressure on the quarterback. And you already know that. You know that he's not getting pressure on the quarterback. You know exactly why you drafted this guy. He knows why he's going to be in the National Football League. He's going to be stout at the point of attack. He's going to fire off the football, put his hands up under the pads of the offensive tackle or guard, whatever the play calls for, whatever you ask him to do, whether it's knifing in and occupying a couple of blockers in the run game for a blitz, or it's him just standing up that tackle and making sure that he sets the edge in the run game, whether it's him setting the edge, him crashing down and occupying 2 blockers and allowing a guy to come outside on a stunt and come scot-free. He's going to do all of the dirty work in this Baltimore Ravens defense. He's a guy that you platoon in and out of the lineup, and he'll do his job. He's a strictly first and second down guy only. You take him off the field on 3rd and long and let somebody else come in the game that can get after the quarterback. But on 1st and 2nd down, and again, this kind of, again, lends to what we talked about earlier with the Ravens wanting to be stouter up front at the point of attack. They want to stop the run again. They want to be like they were in the past, where you just came into the game saying, hey, forget about running the football today. Let's just take it to the air. Because we know it's like banging our head against a brick wall trying to run the football against the Baltimore Ravens. And a guy like Brent Urban is going to help you get back to stopping the run more consistently. I remember 2 years ago watching the Ravens and watching them just get gassed in the run game. And I had never seen that before. Never. I mean, the Ravens don't give it up like that. The Cowboys ran for over 200 yards on them, and Jamal Charles and the Chiefs ran for over 200 yards on them in that season. And I just was so appalled at what I was seeing from this. And taken aback, because I'm not used to seeing that from the Ravens. They were better last year, but they still weren't the Ravens of old, the Ravens that you've come accustomed to over the years that stop the run. This draft is all about getting back to the basics and stopping the run. And Brent Urban, defensive tackle out of Virginia, is going to help you do that. You're not going to ask him to do anything else but set the edge in the run game as a 5 technique in your 3-4 defense. And that's exactly what this man is going to come in and do. It's a double for the defensive tackle out of Virginia in the 4th round, Brent Urban. He's going to come in. You're going to ask him to do one thing and one thing alone, and that's stop the run. And he is going to oblige. No questions asked. So you move on to the second of your 4th round selections. 4 picks later at 138 overall, running back out of Coastal Carolina, Lorenzo Taliaferro. And this is one of those picks where you go, man, we didn't want you. We wanted the other guy. And we just took you because we didn't have any other options. And the Ravens wanted a Division II running back, okay? That's not in question. Now, the one that they wanted, they didn't get. See, they didn't want Lorenzo Taliaferro. They wanted Terrence West, okay? Wake up, Mr. West, Mr. West. They wanted Mr. West. However, the Cleveland Browns said, I know you want Mr. West, but you're not getting him. They come up in front of you, and they take your guy off the board. And so what do? You say, all right, well, we've been scouting Division II football. We've been looking around. And so we'll just take the next best guy in Division II football, and that's Lorenzo Taliaferro. But for me, there's a stark drop-off in terms of what West brought to the table and what Taliaferro brings to the table. Now, West is a workhorse back. And the Browns are getting a guy that you can give the football to, 25, 30 times, and he'll run the football. A lot of tread off those tires. However, they're not going to ask him to be the workhorse back. They got another guy that they went out and got in free agency. And so Ben Tate will be the guy that they're going to turn around and hand the football to. Now, if Ben Tate decides to get injured, another story. But look, this isn't about the Cleveland Browns. It's about the Baltimore Ravens. And so you get Lorenzo Taliaferro, and you wanted Terrence West, but I look at Lorenzo Taliaferro, and I'll tell you one thing that he does do better than Terrence West does, and that's pass protect. He's much better at picking up blitzes. I saw him pick up a blitz that was phenomenal. I mean, I don't know how his quarterback didn't get sacked, because the guy, he technically won. That linebacker that blitz, he won. And Lorenzo Taliaferro refused to give up on the play, continued to block this guy, and gave his quarterback. He literally peeled that linebacker off of his quarterback, continued to block him, and gave the quarterback an opportunity to throw the football. And it ended up being a touchdown. It was a beautiful play and a display of pass blocking ability by Lorenzo Taliaferro. And so on 3rd down, if nothing else, this guy can block. He doesn't do anything exceptionally well. He's not a fast running back. Has solid size, but at about 230 pounds, he's a stocky, well-built guy. Not going to blow you away with any traits. He doesn't have a lot of moves, can get through holes, and he proved that in the Divisional II playoffs, especially against Montana. I thought he was one of the guys that really helped them secure that victory on the road in a huge upset. But I'm not blown away by anything that Lorenzo Taliaferro does, but you're going to ask him to be another back in a stable of backs that you already have with Bernard Pierce and Ray Rice. And you add him to the mix, he'll bring something to the table that I think the guys that you already have on your roster, don't do. But again, he doesn't really stand out from the rest of the crowd. And so in the 4th round, 138th overall selection, running back out of Coastal Carolina, Lorenzo Taliaferro for me. He's a solid pick. He's a double. I mean, because again, I think he's going to come in and he's going to pass block like crazy on 3rd downs. He can catch the football out of the backfield. He can run the football, again, not going to wow you with anything that he does necessarily. But again, he's a solid back. And this kind of fits in with what you've done in this draft. None of these guys, by you not having a home run, it's clear that none of these guys have blown me away throughout this process. However, they're all solid football players that will contribute to this team if they, in fact, make this roster. And so you just continue to hit for average. You're not looking for power here. You're not looking to hit home runs. You're hitting for average right now. And I think you're doing a wonderful job of doing that. So you move on to the 5th round, 175th overall selection. Offensive guard out of Penn State, John Urschel. Urschel. And here's a guy that Mike Mayock tells a funny story about this guy. And we all know this guy to be the smartest player in this draft. 4.0 grade point average. If you don't know, that's a perfect grade point average. All A's for the entire life of your college career, which is asinine. It's insane to think a guy can just get A's in every single subject. And it's not like he has a, one of these majors that's just ho-hum. I mean, I don't even know what his major is, but it's some crazy major that you got to be extremely smart to take up in the first place. And then to ace all of your courses just puts that extra little cherry on the top. And so Mike Mayock says... The story for this guy is he's got a line coach, and every time he's joking around with John Urschel, he says, "Hey, John, got any B's yet?" "No, coach," because all he gets is A's. And so, this guy's extremely smart, and you see it on the football field. I mean, no mental mistakes here. He doesn't do anything that is going to make you scratch your head and say, "Hey, why'd you do that?" I mean, the guy's extremely smart and really good at his craft. And so you're getting a good football player. You're getting a guy that I watch him on tape, and he competes, man. He competes. Not an overly big guy, 6'3", 300 and some odd pounds, 305, 310, 300 pounds. Not overly aggressive, but he gets the job done. I mean, he's one of those guys that you put on your offensive line and you just don't worry about him. You don't worry about him making mistakes. You don't worry about him not getting his assignment done. He'll find a way to get it done. It may not look pretty. It may not be the most graceful, but it'll be done at the end of the day. You'll be able to check it off your box. And I like this guy, man. I mean, I think he can start in this league. I really do. If you put him in the right scheme, and I think this Ravens power run blocking scheme is exactly what the doctor ordered for a guy like John Urschel, because he'll run block, he'll pass block, and I think he's better at pass blocking than he is at run blocking. But I don't think he's that far off. Like, none of them are elite. Let's just say that. He's in the 5th round for a reason. None of his skills are elite. But and again, this whole draft for me, I feel like I'm a broken record. I feel like I'm saying the same thing over and over again. There's nothing elite here about John Urschel. However, he's really good at what he does. All right, the feet, solid. Not great, not extraordinary. He can be beat by speed at times, but the feet are good. Solid base. He anchors well enough. I don't see this guy getting blown up all the time. I've seen him get pushed back. Not once did I see him get blown up, however. Okay? Yeah, he'll get pushed back a bit, but you're not getting to the quarterback. And so, again, another guy that you look at and you ask yourself, what does he do great? And the answer is nothing. But what does he do bad? The answer is nothing. He does nothing bad. He does nothing great. He does everything well. And so I think he's a guy that if he doesn't start, he can be a swing guard for you. He can play both guard positions. If he does start, you'll be happy with the production you get out of a guy that won't make the Pro Bowl, that won't be a guy that you talk about when you talk about this Ravens unit up front. But if you're leading the league in rushing, he'll be part of the reason why. Because he'll do his job and he'll do it well. If you've got the number 6 offensive attack in the league, passing, rushing, you're doing it all well, he'll be one of the guys that anchors that, you know. And he won't get a lot of credit. He'll be one of those unsung heroes. But he'll just do his job exceptionally well. It won't be great. He won't go over the top with it. He won't wow you. You won't look at this guy and say, he's dominant. He's going to take over the game at the guard position. No. But he'll be a part of a line that's stout, that does their job, and they can protect Joe Flacco and they can open up holes in the running game. And so John Urschel for me, you know where this is going. I mean, this is what this draft has been. In the 5th round, 175th overall selection, guard out of Penn State. Double. I mean, what else is new in this Ravens 2014 NFL draft? I mean, if it's not a triple, it's a double. That's what it seems like. So we move on to the 6th round, 194th overall selection. Quarterback out of Ball State, Keith Winning. And I think Gil Brandt, the ex-GM of the Cowboys that works for the NFL Network, he's a scout. I thought he said it best when talking about Keith Winning. I think he had one line about Keith Winning, and I thought it was spot on. It was very apt. Keith Winning is the best quarterback that nobody's talking about in this draft. Because until this process, I couldn't tell you who Keith Winning was. Because he wasn't one of the first 15 names that you run off. I could run off 15 quarterbacks right now that we talked about ad nauseum in this draft. His name isn't one of them. I mean, you can go as far as guys in the 5th and 6th and 7th round that we talked about throughout this process. I can tell you more about Bryn Renner, quarterback out of North Carolina. I can tell you more about him than Keith Winning out of Ball State. Can tell you more about Taj Boyd out of Clemson. More so than Keith Winning. You know, I can tell you about Thomas out of Virginia Tech. I can tell you about all these other quarterbacks before Keith Winning. Yet, if you ask me, he's better than some of those guys. And again, we keep up with this trend. Doesn't do anything great, but he does a lot of things well. And I was impressed with the tape I watched. He has some feathery, soft touch on the football. I think he throws a really good deep ball. Yeah, some of his offense required him to dink and dunk. But then again, when you look at college football, whose offense doesn't have a huge chunk of dink and dunk to it? I mean, everybody in college football right now is using bubble screens and hitches and slants and draggers and just a lot of short routes. I mean, and I think that's a great way to get your quarterback early in a football game in a rhythm. You know, you want to get him settled in, get him a couple of completions, see guys catching the football, and get him to feel good and confident about what he's doing. Then you can start driving the football down the field. And I thought that's what they did at Ball State with Keith Winning. You know, early on in the game, you get a whole bunch of dink and dunkers, a whole bunch of nickel and diamond, you know, bubble screen, a dragger, a slant, a comeback, a stop. And he'd get into a rhythm, and then they start. And the only thing that I don't like about teams that either run a spread offense or teams that run exclusively from the shotgun or the pistol is that you don't get to see the footwork. You don't get to see them come from under center. And that's the only knock I have about Keith Winning at Ball State is the fact that he basically worked from the shotgun. I mean, you could almost say exclusively worked from the shotgun. And that I have a problem with because you don't really get to see the footwork. It's normally set up shop, release the football. You get the football in your hand, you reset the footwork, and you fling it. You know, it might be a two-step drop, boom, ball's out. And you don't really get to see a guy come from underneath the center, you know, take a five-step drop, set up shop, and let it rip. You don't get to see the footwork. You don't get to see how he will do at the next level because teams don't work exclusively from the shotgun in the National Football League. You got to be able to come from under center, turn around, hand the football off, pull it out of the belly of that back, seven-step drop, play action fake, turn your back to the defense, turn around, locate your receivers, read the defensive coverage, and let the football go. And you got to be able to process all that information in warped speed. And when you don't do it at college, the transition to the NFL makes it that much tougher because you haven't done it before. You don't have prior experience and knowledge of how to do that. And so it takes you a while to adjust to the speed of the game. And so that's something that I worry about with Keith Winning, because he didn't do that at Ball State. He didn't run a pro-style offense. However, he's got pro-style skills. And so I think his skill set translates to this league, and I think he could easily be a backup in this league. I don't think he's necessarily a starter, but every team needs a quality backup. You know, and you can sit here and talk about, you know, the guys that are durable, the Eli Mannings, and the guys like that. You know, Joe Flacco doesn't miss a lot of time, pretty durable guy. But you never know when that shot is coming. You know, you never know when somebody's going to roll up on their ankle. You never know when your quarterback is going to have to miss 2 to 4 weeks. You never know when your quarterback is going to have to miss 6 weeks. You need a quarterback that can come in and steady the ship, that can keep the boat afloat while your starter isn't in the lineup. Even if it's for 3 series, while your quarterback is getting his ankle retaped. Even if it's for a quarter, while your quarterback is being fitted for a flap jacket in the locker room because he took a shot to his ribs. You need a guy that can come in and get the job done. And I think in 2 years from now, Keith Winning will be a guy that you'll feel comfortable putting in the game at the quarterback position. If it's for a short period of time or an extended period of time, you'll feel confident that he can come in and get the job done. And so in the 6th round, 194th overall selection, out of Ball State, quarterback Keith Winning. I like this guy. I like what he brings to the table. Not extremely fast, but mobile enough to extend the play, mobile enough to get out on the edges and throw the football, strong enough arm to throw on the run, not set his feet and still drive the football 40 yards down the field, strong enough arm to put it where it needs to be, but yet the feathery soft touch to drop it in a bucket over a defensive back's head in perfect coverage. I like him. I think he's solid. I think there's a lot of things that he's going to have to adjust to in the NFL game. But I think he's not starting. He's not starting anytime soon. He's not a guy that probably will eventually even be a starter. He's going to be a clipboard holder. He's going to be a guy that you can trust to hold that clipboard. And in the event that he has to put the clipboard down, take the ball cap off, put the helmet on, he's going to do a really adequate job of coming into the game and playing some competent football. Keith Winning, for me, is another double for the Ravens in the 6th round. And so you wrap up the draft in the 7th round, 218th overall selection, wide receiver out of Wake Forest, Mike Campanaro. And when you see a guy his size, his stature, working the slot the way he does, you think of guys that are diminutive in this league that run these option routes, that run the jerk routes, that get in and out of breaks, and get open and create separation and catch the football. And he seems to fit that mold, running a 4.4 240, excuse me. He's a guy that can run. He's quick and he's fast. So that always lends itself to being a guy that can create separation in the slot. It's funny because he can run routes, and I think he does a pretty solid job of running routes, but he can be better at running routes. And if he gets with the right coach, learns how to polish his route running ability, I don't care that he's 5'9". I actually like the fact that he's 5'9". I actually like the fact that he can get in and out of his breaks. I actually like the fact that he's a smaller guy, lower center of gravity, so he's going to give bigger guys in the slot fits to keep up with him. So because you're a faster guy, because you're quick and you're fast, because you're shorter, you're lower center of gravity, because you can catch the football, I like all of the things that he brings to the table. Mike Campanaro is a guy that I think can have success at this level. He's just got to be more consistent at everything, okay? More consistent at catching the football. Sometimes there's these lapses in concentration where, and I talked about this with Crockett Gilmore, where you're like, hey man, you ran a great route. You created separation. You got open. Why didn't you catch the football, man? Like, you did all of that. You created the separation. You did everything. You made the quarterback's job easy. You did the hard part, which is getting open. You did that already. Why did you drop the football, man? I mean, catch the ball, you know? And then you see that. And then 2 plays later, he comes back and makes a phenomenal diving grab. And you're like, How did you drop that one but catch that one? Doesn't make any sense. So I need him to be more consistent catching the football, and I need him to be a better route runner. And again, I think that'll come with time. That'll come with a coach getting with him, developing his skill set, getting him to learn how to sit down in zone coverage, how to, find the soft spots in zone, how to break down man coverage, how to set a cornerback up and create separation. And he'll start watching film of some of the better guys in the league, the Wes Welkers of the world, and the guys that really work the slot well. And he'll learn how to do what they do. Guys like Danny Amendola, who have the same type of stature that he has, that can work the slot and get open. And the more he becomes better at his craft, the better and more useful he'll be to you in this offense. And I think he's a guy that I could easily see coming in, helping this Ravens team immediately from the slot. I mean, he's a 7th-round pick, but I could easily see him making this roster, because the one thing that I look at this Ravens roster and I say to myself is that you don't have a lot of guys at receiver that can keep somebody else from making the roster. You just got a bunch of stuff at receiver. None of it elite. At the top half, you got Torrey Smith. You went out and got Steve Smith. Cool. But you don't have guys that scare you. After those two, you don't have guys that are locks on this roster that you're like, okay, he's got to be here. Jacoby Jones, yeah, definitely. But those other guys, and Marlon Brown, he did establish himself. So I say all of that, and then I run off 4 names. But he's going to make this roster. I don't think there are enough receivers that you feel good about to stop this guy from making a roster. And I think that's the hardest part for him, is just making this roster, getting his foot in the door. Because once he comes into camp, shows you what he can bring to the table, because I think he has a skill set unlike any other receiver on your roster. And I think he's a guy that specifically is going to work the slot and give you what you're looking for from that end of the spectrum. And so I think Michael Campanaro in the 7th round, excellent pickup. And again, Ozzie Newsome fitting a need, getting a guy that fits a need for this Ravens football team. 7th round, 218th overall selection, wide receiver out of Wake Forest. Another double. Not a single in this draft for the Ravens. So again, nobody blows me away in this draft, but everybody is solid. And that's what the Ravens do. They beat you to death with solid football players. Again, they don't blow you away with a lot of high-level talent. They just beat you up with a lot of solid football players. You put all those solid football players together, and they'll beat out a team with some top-tier talent. They'll beat the Detroit Lions, who have, elite football players at several different positions, but they don't have a lot of solid football players. They either got elite or they just got really pedestrian players. That's why the Ravens are annually good, because they keep a cupboard chocked full of solid football players. And give me 11 good football players versus 2 great ones and 9 subpar football players. So that's what the Ravens continue to do. So you look at this draft as a whole. 1st round, C.J. Mosley, triple. I just don't see what everybody else sees. Can't give him a home run because I don't see what everybody else sees. I see a solid football player that has some really good traits, but I don't see him being great at one thing. 2nd round, Timmy Jernigan is another guy that I feel like is a perfect fit for this Ravens defense, going to complement Haloti Ngata well along that defensive line, going to help you stop the run and be more stout at the point of attack. He's a triple. 3rd round, Terrence Brooks, triple for a guy that I think is going to be a great complement to Matt Elam in the back half of that defense. 3rd round, Crockett Gilmore, double, going to come in and be the 2nd tight end. He's going to replace a guy that you allowed to walk away in free agency in Ed Dixon, and he'll do that just fine. He's a double. 4th round, Brent Urban, a defensive tackle out of Virginia. You're going to ask him to be a 5 technique that stops the run. End of discussion, and he's going to do that well. He's a double. 2nd, 4th round pick, Lorenzo Taliaferro. He's not the guy you wanted. He's the other guy, but nonetheless, he's going to come in, be a 3rd down back, catch it out of the backfield. He's going to give you great production as well in terms of pass pro He's a double. 5th round, 175th overall selection, guard out of Penn State, John Urschel. Urschel. He's a double. Smart guy, tough guy. Is going to get the job done at guard. 6th round, quarterback Keith Winning out of Ball State. To me, he has all the potential in the world to be a really quality backup quarterback in this league. And some people knock him for this, that, and the other. I think the only thing that I need to see from him is the ability to work from under the center. He did not do that at Ball State. If he can make that transition smoothly, I think he'll be a guy that competes for a 3rd quarterback position on your team initially, and then he'll be competing for backup snaps eventually. And so he's a double. And then you wrap up the draft, 7th round, receiver out of Wake Forest, Mike Campanaro. I think he's got all the makings of a great, not a good, not a great slot receiver in this league. He can be the next slot machine down the road. Give me 2-3 years of this guy working with a really good receivers coach and him watching film of the greats in this league who work the slot the best. And I think he can be the next in the long line of guys that are diminutive, but they work the heck out of the slot. Give him 2 or 3 years, and I think we could be talking about Mike Campanaro as one of the best slot receivers in this league. I think he's got that kind of potential if he works at his craft and becomes better and more consistent. And that's the best part of it, is that everything that he needs to be better at, he can work to become better at it. Because his hands aren't bad. He's got good hands. Just got to be more consistent. He can run routes, just needs to run better routes. He can be more consistent. And so he works on those things. He'll be a really good football player in this league. He's a double to wrap up this draft. And so you got 9 picks, triple, 6, triple, again, 9, double, 11, double, 13, double, 15, double, 17, double, 19, double, 21. You divide that by 9. And now, look, you come with some bonuses here. You get a triple bonus for 3 triples for this Ravens team. So you add that to the total. That's 24. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 doubles. So that's 2 double bonuses. So you add that to their total. You get a 26. Then you take that to a 28. Then you take that to a 30. So let's count this over again because I got kind of messed up here. So 3 triples, that's 9, 11, 13, 15, 17, 19, 21. You get a triple bonus. That's 24. You get 2 double bonuses for 6 doubles. So that's 26, 28. You divide that by 9. It is a 3.1 triple for the Baltimore Ravens in the 2014 NFL Draft. So Ozzie Newsome hit for average. He didn't hit for power. He hit for average and did a really good job. And he beat us up with doubles and triples and ended up getting a triple when it's all said and done in the 2014 NFL Draft wrap-up, the Baltimore Ravens. So if it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the lab room. Thank you for joining me here on this program. Ravens come out of this thing with a triple. Wasn't that enamored with the draft to begin with, but as you can see, it's extremely solid. And what else do we expect from Ozzie Newsome and this Baltimore Ravens football team? And so there's only one question that remains. Who's next?
Draft Zone.
Like the content? Want more? Sub up.